So, who's going to lead USC in 2023?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching me on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we're free. I appreciate your support so much. And if you want to become a free subscriber, it's super easy when you're watching on YouTube. Hit that red subscribe button. Locked On USC comes at you 5 times a week. I know you're going to like that, so hit that thumbs up. Both mean a whole heck of a lot to the show. And for all of you everyday loyal viewers and listeners, you might notice a little bit of a new look here. A little bit more of a streamlined graphics going on. Hope you like it. Tell me what you think. Love the feedback. So, intro to the show. I asked, who's going to lead USC? We know Lincoln Riley is the head coach. We know Caleb Williams is the quarterback. My question is, who's going to lead USC in receptions, touchdowns, yards gained? I'm going to ask that among the different position groups. And then, on defense, who'll be leading tackler, interceptions, that type of stuff. So let's start on offense, because everybody has an idea. Everyone, I think, truly understands and believes that USC will be an offensive team. And if the defense decides to tag along and come along for the ride, awesome. We invite you. We look forward to it. Make it happen. So let's just start with the wide receiver group. Last year's leading wide receiver, Jordan Addison, he's now a Minnesota Viking. He led USC with 59 catches, 875 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And that was in limited time. Remember, he missed a few games, as well as he chose not to play in the Cotton Bowl so he could prepare for the NFL draft. USC's next 3 wide receivers, they were kind of bunched together as far as the statistics are concerned. You had Taj Washington was the second leading receiver, 50 receptions, 785 yards, 6 touchdowns. Mario Williams, 40, 631, and 5 touchdowns. And then Brendan Rice was the fourth leading receiver. He had 39 receptions, 611 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Now, a nice chunk of that came towards the end of the year, and specifically in that Cotton Bowl performance. After those guys, this is who Caleb Williams gets to choose from. He's got Michael Jackson III. He's got Kyron Hudson-Ware. Those are the returning guys. And then you've got a few freshmen. You've got Zachariah Branch. You've got Mekhi Lemon. And then Deuce Robinson, even though he's listed at tight end, you'll see him lined up in a wide receiver role, I assume, this season. And then joining those guys, you have the transfer from Arizona, Dorian Singer, the former walk-on at Arizona. Well, in 2022, that former walk-on, he would have been USC's leading wide receiver. 66 receptions, 1,105 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That 1,100 yards, that's almost 17 yards per reception. In fact, he was tied for the Pac-12 lead with 5 receptions of at least 40 yards and with 11 for at least 30 yards. And then he led the league with 21 catches for at least 20 yards or more. That's production. So Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, they came together from Oklahoma, and Brendan showed what he's capable of, as I mentioned, in the Cotton Bowl. So I'm going to go with Singer will lead USC in yards. Brendan Rice will have the most touchdowns, and either Taj or Mario will actually end up with the most receptions. So yeah, there I am. I'm sitting on the fence. I gotta pick favorites amongst them all. I might change my tune by the time fall camp arrives. You never know. But right now, I would definitely put Singer as as far as probably leader in yards. After that, what we can agree on is Caleb Williams has a lot of choices, and he's going to be able. Hopefully, he'll be spreading the wealth around. So, what about toting the rock at running back? Well, Austin Jones led the running back group. Believe this or not, last year he had 25 catches. Dye had 21. So we know he's capable of catching the ball. But we're going to talk strictly about running the ball right now. So Jones was second in rushing behind Travis Dye's 884 yards and 9 touchdowns. That was before his season-ending injury. Jones rushed 135 times. He had 705 yards, 5 touchdowns. Pretty productive. And I'm not sure if anybody is aware of this, but Caleb Williams was actually third on the team in rushing. 113 carries for 382 yards. He led everybody with 10 touchdowns. He also had the longest run of the year, 59 yards. It was a costly rush. I think we know what happened at the end of that 59-yard run. But here's a little bonus question stat for you. Guess who had the second longest run of the season? I'll answer that at the end of this segment. So Travis Dye is gone. Marshawn Lloyd comes in, and he's going to pair up with Austin Jones because Austin's returning with Darwin Barlow and Rayleigh Brown, and then you got a couple of talented freshmen in Quentin Joyner and Amarian Peterson. Marshawn Lloyd's stats at South Carolina. These were in 9 games. One of the, and I'm using finger quotes, concerns with Marshawn Lloyd is he has not been able to stay healthy since he's been at South Carolina. Last year, 9 games, 111 carries, 573 yards, 9 touchdowns. Here's a question. When was the last time USC had 2,000-yard rushers in the same season? I know the last time USC had Reggie and Lindale's 1,700 yards and 1,300 yards, respectively, rushing. So here, I guess the question is, can Caleb Williams win the Heisman Trophy again with 2,000-yard rushers? We're going to find out how prolific USC's offense can be this coming season. I'm going to go Austin Jones will have the most yards. Marshawn Lloyd will be right behind him, but he's going to have more touchdowns. Hopefully the running backs have more rushing touchdowns than Caleb Williams. I would love for Caleb Williams to have the most passing touchdowns, and let's spread the wealth. Let everybody get a taste, so to speak. What I would like to do is save Caleb's legs, and if I don't have to have him, plowing in, underneath center, 1 yard out, I'd feel a lot better. Give it to the running back. So look, like I said, I anticipate Austin Jones leading in yards, Marshawn Lloyd with most touchdowns. And what's really great about this is the depth with Darwin Barlow and the freshmen behind those guys. And you got Rayleigh Brown's versatility. I don't even know how many times he'll carry the ball, but you're going to see him moving all over the place, which is really neat. Again, USC has a chance to have a really prolific offense this year. A lot of things to work with, a lot of skill players. We know Caleb is going to do Caleb stuff, so that's going to be fun to watch. So there's really no need to try and put a number on his stats. Caleb has tried to throw some numbers out there. If he reaches those numbers, watch out. So who's going to have? Here's last question on offense. Who will have the most touchdowns between the two freshmen, Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson? That's a tough one. I'm going to go Zach Branch, just because he has the ability to get some on special teams as well. Oh, by the way, the answer to that bonus question, the second longest run of the season in 2022, that belongs to Michael Jackson III, MJ3, 53 yards. Real quickly, let's switch over to defense. Mason Cobb, he's going to lead the team in tackles. Dramatic pause, only because he Did that at Oklahoma State, and I anticipate him doing the same here. He's just a tackling machine. As the coaching staff said, he was made to play middle linebacker. Kalen Bullock, excuse me. I do not want to see Caleb Williams playing, going both ways this year. Kalen will, again, lead the team in interceptions. I'm going to predict he has at least 5. Earlier, way back when in my, I was asked, who would lead USC in sacks? Well, I said Tyrone Taleni. But that was a long time ago, and that was pre-Bear Alexander, pre-Anthony Lucas, pre-Jack Sullivan, pre-defensive roster turnover. Today, it's a bear market. There's my answer. Bear Alexander will lead the team in sacks. Hey, the NBA Finals, they're here. They're started. You need to make a really fast break. I mean, a really quick fast break over to FanDuel during these playoffs before they end, because when they end, as a new customer, I don't know if you're going to get this no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. Let me repeat that. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel gives you a few things. Number one, they give you great promotions like the one I just told you about. You need to join today as a new customer. FanDuel also gives you a very safe, a very easy, and a very secure app to use from your mobile device. Plus, best part, you get paid instantly. So literally, there is no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, and you're going to get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. As I meander here into this second segment, I want to kind of remind everybody, Monday, make sure you tune into Locked On USC. I'm going to have as many updates as I can gather from the visitors who are checking out USC this weekend. So make sure you check it out because everybody wants to know what's going on with recruiting. A little earlier, I broke down the wide receiver leaders for USC. That's what we were just talking about. This question is a little bit more specific. It's who are USC's 2 best receivers against the rest of the field, the rest of the Pac-12? The reason I'm asking this question, I was tooling around on the interweb, and I saw a list put together of the best wide receiver duo. And I was like, it's not USC. So when I first saw the list, I was like, no way. But then my objectivity kind of just started to kick in. I said, you know what? USC definitely has the best overall group of wide receivers in the conference. I don't think anybody is going to question that. But do they have the best duo? The top 2 guys. As I mentioned, Caleb Williams, he has the best overall group. But the Pac-12 has some really good quarterbacks in 2023. You've got Michael Penix Jr. up there at Washington. You've got Cameron Rising at Utah. You got Bo Nix over there at Oregon. You got Jaden DeLaura at Arizona. And each of those programs have a pretty good group of wide receivers. Nothing like USC's, but they can kind of stand there and say, hey, we can do this. So again, I said best duo. Now, when I'm watching the Trojans practice, the field is just littered with wide receivers everywhere. I've mentioned the names already. Mario Williams, Taj Washington, Brendan Rice, Dorian Singer, and then you got these guys who, kind of help push Kyle Ford and Gary Bryant Jr. to look for open space elsewhere. You've got, I mentioned Michael Jackson III. You got Kyron Hudson. They're being joined by Zachariah Branch, Makai Lemon from Los Alamitos High School, Malachi Nelson's number one target when they played together. Deuce Robinson, even though he's technically a tight end. But again, out of that group, which two would you pair up against the Washington Huskies duo of Rome Udunze and Jalen McMillan? Now, each of those guys had over 70 catches and respectively 1,145 yards and 1,098. So roughly 1,100 yards each. That's pretty good production. Here's the thing. Dorian Singer at Arizona had better stats than both of those guys. So, assuming that Dorian's performance and numbers carry over from Tucson to LA, who among Mario and Taj and Brendan and Kyron and every Michael Jackson III and everybody else that I mentioned, who's going to end up being that second person? Give me some feedback. Let me know. Oregon, here's their two top guys. You got Troy Franklin. USC recruited him really heavily. You got Chris Hudson out of St. John Bosco. Those are their two returning guys. Nice duo. I wouldn't pick those guys over Rome or Jalen or over USC's. They did bring in a couple of transfers. What's his name? Tez Johnson and Trayshawn Holden. USC fans will not recognize that name from Alabama. But again, I will take USC's duo over any duo from the Ducks. And that's not because I don't like Oregon. That's just because USC's got a better group of receivers to pair up. If you disagree, Oregon fan, tell me why. And you better bring a good explanation, not just because you said so. I'll tell you who might have the strongest argument in this discussion. Maybe Arizona. Their quarterback, I mentioned, they returned Jaden DeLara. But, you had Dorian Singer. He was paired up last year with Jacob Cowing. Both of those guys went over 1,000 yards. Jacob Cowing returns to Arizona this year. And he also has sophomore Territora McMillan. Everyone knows him as T-Mac. He was impressive last year as a freshman. He made some tough catches. We'll see if that carries over. And if it does, I will be the first one to say, hey, you know what? Maybe he's not a practice player. He's just a gamer. He's got a lot of ability, is what I'm telling you. But after those two guys, after T-Mac and Cowing, not Al Cowing, after Jacob Cowing, Arizona just has a lot of freshmen. And by a lot, I mean 10 of them. So maybe that's why Montana Lamonius Craig bailed out of Boulder, Colorado, and Coach Prime. And I feel very comfortable that he could probably be a starter in Arizona. He's good. I loved watching him when I saw him play on the 7-on-7 circuit before he went to Colorado his senior season, after his senior season in high school. That was a while ago, though. So I think Arizona might have it would be between USC and Arizona if you want to compare them to Washington's top two. And then as far as Utah, they got a bunch of guys, but they definitely don't have anybody who would go, oh, those are the two guys I want. But they're just they get the job done. That's Utah. They get the most out of their talent that they recruit. Former USC wide receiver Munir McClain is over there. Is he going to be their number one guy this year? Here's why USC doesn't have to have the top duo, if that's what we're going to base it on. Because Washington has the top two guys, if we're looking at stats. But if you're looking at it from USC's point of view, when you've got more toys to play with them. You don't need to have two guys who just dominate with 70, 75 catches apiece. If you can have 4 or 5 guys with 50 catches apiece, I don't know. Does it matter if you have the better duo? Yeah. Give me 5 over 2. every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So it's Friday. It's time for my rant. I got started a little bit early yesterday. Kind of went off on Nick Saban and his whining about USC's unfair NIL advantages. Yeah, Nick Saban has this thing about parity. I just don't think he really understands what parity means. So, anyways, on Thursday, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, he let reporters know that the Southeastern Conference has approved a temporary 8-game conference schedule for their 2024 season when it welcomes in the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners to the league. As well, in 2024, there will be no more divisions, and it'll just be 16 teams and only 8 league games played. Now, keep in mind, this is a reminder, USC and LSU are scheduled to kick off the season against each other in 2024 in Las Vegas. That game better not get canceled. That's all I'm saying. I haven't heard anything about it. Just saying. Nor do I want to hear anything about USC's home and home with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss being canceled. I think that starts in 2025 and 2026. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the trip to the Grove. I want to see what that's all about. It's on my bucket list. Look, I know the Pac-12, Pac-10 before that, has killed itself. Right? I understand the argument with the 9-game conference schedule. But that's because the SEC likes to cook the books. Not everyone's 9 or 10 wins are equal when you look at the out-of-conference schedules for SEC teams. The top of the SEC with Georgia and Alabama are, right now, are just they are above Ohio State and Michigan. As far as the top of the conferences are concerned, those 4 teams are the top of those 2 conferences. But, it's when you get to the middle and to the bottom of the conferences, that's where the differences are. And the bottom of the SEC, or the Big, is no better than the Pac-12s if you're looking at the schedules. Let me give you an example. Let me put everything into context for you here. Here's a list of conferences with teams playing at least 10 Power 5 opponents in 2023. The Big Ten, 13 of their 14 team members are playing 10 Power Conference teams, or playing 10 Power 5 conference teams. The Big 12, 11 of their 14. The Pac-12, 10 of their 12. And then the AC, 10 of 15. Oh, here comes the SEC. Are you ready for this? Only 2 of their 14 teams will have 10 games on their schedule from a Power 5 conference. That is a freaking joke. And it's always been like that. And then you hear the SEC fan, they use the same argument, and not plural, same argument. It's just the same narrative that they spout from the same manifesto. Well, the SEC is tougher because we play so-and-so who was ranked so-and-so. It's like wash, rinse, repeat, year after year. Sorry, just because Mississippi State is number 20 with a bunch of nobodies on their out-of-conference schedule, and they're 4-0 when they play Arkansas, who's also 4-0, or, whoever, it doesn't make them, a legitimate top 20 team. It just means they're 4-0, and the SEC gets the benefit of the doubt with a lot of the voters. And what's even worse of how things are done in the Southeastern Conference, I think there's some unwritten rule that their 4th cupcake, because they're only going to play 8 conference games, which means they're going to have 4 out of conference games. That cupcake number 4 has to be scheduled sometime late in the year before a rivalry game. Look, I get it. It's smart gamesmanship. I mean, it gives their regulars on the roster some rest, and it gives the backups a lot of valuable playing time. But the intent is to get an easy win, inflate the record, and you're doing it with style points. You're running up a score against, an overmatched Austin Peay or an Arkansas Pine Bluff or Alabama's favorite, kick the baby, the Citadel. I just, whatever. So I found this comment kind of amusing. Greg Senke was asked this question in response to the argument about a 9-game schedule. Quote, the SEC is a league at the forefront of college football that does not stand still. He's right. Stepping back to 8 games is a step backward. So you're not standing still, but you're definitely not going forward. That's my Friday rant. I am so tired of the SEC. I am so happy that USC is joining the Pac, leaving the Pac-12 and going to the big conference, because they're going to have everything behind them. No longer can SEC fans say, well, yeah, you play in the Pac-12. You got to schedule, you got to play 9 conference games. You got to schedule strong out of conference because you play so-and-so, referring to the Arizonas or the Arizona States, Oregon States of the world. So, there you go. My rant is over. So is this episode of Locked On USC. Make sure you come back on Monday. We'll be back. That'll start the week. Another 5 episodes. That's what we do, even during the off season. So then, until then, everyone, you know what to do.